Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on our website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, separately on YouTube and numerous other media. A new show is posted every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. Check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area. If you have questions or comments, you can send me an email at bob@firedupmail.com. Again, that's bob@firedupmail.com. Or leave a message on my office answering machine, which is 702-257-1060. That's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. The bulk of this week's show is about the current controversy about law enforcement use of force and less lethal weapons. So I'm putting on my police trainer's hat for this. As you may know, I taught firearms and use of force in 28 police academies, including authoring the outlines, testing procedures, designing firing drills, and scores necessary to successfully pass the course. First, I'd like to address the use of less lethal tools. Of course, none are totally safe to use. Any less lethal can have unexpected results causing injury to the opponent. The threat response you have, obviously, there are a wide range of options available, somewhere between walking away from an opponent and shooting him. Walking away, now I'm talking about police officers here. With my police trainer's hat. So, walking away is occasionally prudent when some goofy individual is just acting out but not harming others. People sometimes do that, and it's okay, and there's nothing you can do if they're not harming other people. The list of available options generally reads like this. First is evasion of the problem, what we're talking about, walking away. Then is de-escalation, physical restraint that is designed not to hurt him, verbal warnings, use of impacts, chemical weapons, stun guns, and tasers. And lastly, we have use of deadly force. When police use force to protect themselves, a number of possible options may be available depending on the circumstances of the threat. The amount of force used must meet a rather simple standard. The force applied must be reasonable and it must be necessary. Reasonable force means the action taken is within the bounds dictated by the danger level of the attack and the department policy. Necessary force means that you had no other safe options available. Suppose the circumstances of the confrontation allow the officer to safely withdraw, but he decides instead to shoot the person that's annoying him. Clearly, that action would not be considered necessary. Force can only be used when needed for self-defense or defense of others, not to punish the attacker or to get revenge. Revenge for something that happened a few minutes ago is the most common one. So we have evasion of danger as one of the options. The best solution, of course, is not to be attacked at all. If the officer can avoid the situation by wishing the subject has a great day, that might be a reasonable solution. Avoiding the confrontation prevents the officer or the opponent from being injured and dramatically reduces the risk of criminal charges and serious lawsuits. Of course, if nothing happens, there's no danger to anybody. De-escalation. Now, law enforcement now receives training in de-escalation of confrontations. If the incident is contained and it is safe to slow things down, take a breath and relax. If the opponent is willing to talk, listen to his problems in a sympathetic manner. While this will not often apply to police encounters, I consider an example. I've seen cases like this several times. Driving in traffic, the officer's driving in traffic, and the car in front of the officer suddenly stops. To avoid the collision, he swerves to the side, almost hitting the car in the next lane. That driver jumps out screaming profanities about the officer's family history and his intelligence quotient. You know the drill. The officer might calm him by standing with empty palms forward and saying he is truly sorry for the near miss. I expect he would be truly sorry, as a complaint would ruin his day too, more report writing to do and so forth. Having to write reports because somebody complains about you, and then the sergeant makes you write a report as to what happened, and You know, it never ends. Next, we have verbal warnings. For what appears to be a threatening situation, the next best option is to use a verbal warning. A loud, specific command will usually cause an opponent to rethink his position. I would think so. I'm losing space. Here we go. That being said, remember, he does not think like you, the bad guy. It is not unusual for criminal suspects to fight rather than submit to arrest. Sometimes they just don't want to go to jail. Sometimes they are wanted for other major crimes and looking at life in prison if they're captured. Those things happen. We had a recent case in Minneapolis where you all saw that, where a guy was nice for 45 minutes and all of a sudden went ballistic. While we're on warnings, talk a bit about warning shots. Warning shots are loud, but they're non-specific and almost always prohibited by any police department's policy. They also carry the danger that the opponent may think you are shooting at him. They're noisy. They sometimes react to that by defending themselves and shooting back. Happens a lot in the civilian world. It happens a lot in the police world. Avoid warning shots. Another problem with warning shots is they all hit something. The department gets to pay for whatever is hit. Bystanders, if they're hit with a warning shot, are really expensive. This is where an attorney friend of mine always says every bullet fired has a lawsuit attached to it with a string. Any warning may not work as expected. Officers must be prepared for an unusual reaction. The recent case I just mentioned in Minneapolis comes to mind. The next step up for officers using force is what we call soft hands techniques. Here we're talking about non-impact physical techniques designed to make the officer safe, but not seriously injure the opponent. Officers get substantial and repeated training in these techniques. This is the spot for their use. They are in the same techniques you might use on an unruly child. Get control, but try not to injure him. Keep in mind that all less lethal techniques and weapons have been accused of causing deaths under odd circumstances, right? There's always a danger. We're going to break here for just a moment for a brief word from some of our friends and associates, and I'll be back on this rather long rant. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. This is a reminder to all our listeners. Keystone Corporation, it's a conservative organization that I'm on their board of directors, is having their annual dinner on Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The featured speaker is Karl Rove. It is at the Venetian Hotel. For information, you can visit online to www.keystonenevada.com and get all the information. Tables are available for groups, and Karl Rove is an amazing commentator. You don't want to miss this. It is going to be the conservative event of the year. And I'm back. The next thing we're dealing with in defensive tools for officers are generally chemical weapons. Pepper spray, oleoresin capsicum, what they call OC spray, has racked up a remarkable 85% stop rate in field use. A pair of 1-second bursts directed toward the opponent's face will bring most confrontations to an abrupt conclusion. They generally carry a SHU rating. It's a heat rating. It's in Scoville heat units for you technical people, of 2 million or greater on the label. The compressed propellant will last no more than 2 years before it leaks out, and all of a sudden your pepper spray doesn't work. As it nears expiration, turn it in. Your agency will give you a new one. They also come in types, that is stream spraying, cone spray, foggers, as well as foam versions. The stream ones spray 20 feet or so, but have a narrow spread, hence requiring aiming. That may be hard to do if you're in a wrestling match and we're fighting over the pepper spray. The foggers are very effective, but short-ranged, perhaps 5 feet or so. The general best choice is the cone spray version. It has reasonable range and usually up to about 10 feet, but still a wide enough pattern to very reliably get into the opponent's eyes and nose. The foaming types, often carried by court officers and correction officers, are designed for indoor use to avoid contamination of the surrounding area, but carry the danger of being wiped off by your opponent and then applied to you. Whenever officers use pepper spray, they will certainly catch some of the spray themselves. Never fails. Law enforcement officers are all trained so they can fight their way through pepper spray. During academy training, all of the cadets get sprayed in the face. Then the drill is they have to run a few feet, usually 15, 20 feet, and then wrestle a dummy firearm away from another instructor who is pointing this fake gun, and they have to get the gun away from him while they're crying and tears are coming out and so forth. I recall one class where the spraying instructor was distracted by something that happened around him, and as he's going down the line spraying each individual cadet, he missed the guy, sprayed it over his shoulder. Instead of screaming and falling to the ground, as most of us would have, he said, "Sir, you missed me." The instructor then resprayed him. I'd have given him a break if that was me, but whatever. You've got to love the cadet's integrity. I expect he became a great police officer. The cadets are marvelous people in the academy. Then we have stun guns. The handheld electronic stun guns in general have been replaced in law enforcement by tasers, which duplicate that purpose. When these units were out, I think the first one was a Nova ER 5000, were the first ones available. An incredible amount of experimentation between law enforcement officers quickly proved the unit's effectiveness. At the time, if you drew two parallel pencil lines with a lead pencil from your desk to the other officer's chair, the voltage would run down the line to the next desk and zap the officer in his chair. Really too bad nobody makes lead pencils anymore. Anyway, they no longer are used. You see them a lot in the civilian world. And they certainly can be disabling. We have robbers occasionally using stun guns as a criminal tool, and occasionally a murderer to disable his opponent. Tasers are out. They're the king of the hill in the less lethal area. Law enforcement has had an amazing success rate when these devices are used against combative subjects, as long as both darts hit the opponent's body somewhere. However, there are a few downsides to tasers. There's considerable litigation against Taser International over alleged deaths caused by their use or misuse of the devices. Should these deaths be laid at the feet of Taser or some other cause is open to question. On the positive side, the newer models have video recorders built in that start when the unit is drawn from its holster. Taser also strongly defends cases when there is an injury claim. So all in all, they're a good thing. And of course, they have the drive stun ability with tasers. And they've, as I said, replaced the stun guns, handheld ones, a lot. Next, we have using impacts. Punches, kicks, karate strikes can certainly be useful self-defense or control techniques. The usefulness of these techniques will depend on the officer's physical agility, training, proficiency, and the particular circumstances. If the officer is capable of controlling the opponent with a short fight, it is certainly an option to consider as long as the officer stops applying force when he or she is safe. Most of the huge lawsuits seen against law enforcement or law enforcement agencies are not for use of force, but rather for use of excessive force. When the opponent is no longer a threat, stop, handcuff him. The issue is over. We're going to break right here for our second break from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man, Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. Now I have a second issue I want to address here, which is all over the press at the moment, disbanding police departments and replacing them with helpful monitors trained in psychological reasoning. The theory is to talk to violent looters who are into stopping their behavior. The trained monitor just convinces the looter or arsonist to change his attitude. This idea has no resemblance to any actual reality. It could easily end the confrontation with an injured or even dead monitor. Violent criminals will take over every city or state that tries this. We have already seen the result in areas that are trying this. Violent criminals respond only to the threat or use of actual physical force. Organized Antifa types have actually forced police to back away as their less lethal tools have been taken away by some idiot mayor, police chief, or governor. In at least one city, officers were limited to nightsticks and firearms. All other less lethal tools were forbidden. Impacts and firearms were the only choices. Some were recently blocked from entry into a murder scene by rioters. They just decide not to let the police in. The police are outnumbered, and they can't work the crime scene. Officers sign up for careers that have risks of injuries or death as part of the job. They did not sign up to be disarmed and murdered. As a rule, these men and women represent the finest of Americans. Administrators that allow officers to be disarmed and attacked should be removed from office and charged with complicity in the injuries or death of any officer harmed by their policies. In a few cases, their home addresses and family details have been published on left side websites and their homes placed under surveillance, graffitied, or actually attacked with rocks and gunfire. I shudder to think that any of my academy cadets over the years have been injured or killed. I pray for their safety. In my days as an officer, it was just dangerous enough to make it interesting. Now officers are literally at risk of being seriously injured or killed on a daily basis. This anti-law enforcement madness has got to stop. It looks like we have just a little bit of time to do one more story. So we are going to back up to a real story. That rant was a real story too. This is one of our regular interesting stories using self-defense. And it comes to us from the San Antonio News 4 on June 21st, 2020, just recently in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio police responded to calls for a shooting Sunday just after 7 p.m. in the 14,200 block of Shorthorn Drive in the far northeast side of San Antonio. When officers arrived at the location, they found a man in his 30s who had been shot multiple times with his body outside his home, and a 20-something man inside the home who had been stabbed. The shooting victim was taken to SAMMC in critical condition, and the stabbing victim was transported to Northeast Medical in stable condition. Police say the man came to the home to collect a debt. Then a fight broke out between the two people. The debt collector pulled out a knife and stabbed the homeowner. Then the homeowner pulled out a gun and shot the debt collector 3 times. Police say the home has been subject of multiple calls for service. Now, as this is a Texas case, the usual warnings, the Texas laws are different. Different rules, different state, great laws in Texas. So these 2 men got into a physical fight and the debt collector stabbed the resident. Can he shoot in self-defense? Yes. Whatever the cause of the fight, the intruder stabbed the resident, so he is fine in firing in self-defense. Easy story. If someone comes into your home and stabs you, you can shoot him in self-defense. You can check out our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen recent episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. We'll be back next Thursday on our website, firedupwithboberwin.com, on YouTube at the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. While watching any media, just click on subscribe, and new shows will be sent to your computer or phone automatically. Please forward these broadcasts to your friends. Our logo merchandise, hats, books, and so forth are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus on the Strip. Remember, the audio portion is rebroadcast on the Nevada Talk Network all across Nevada, Saturdays at noon. Check out the stations in your area at KELY1230.com. Thank you so much for supporting Fired Up. We'll see you again next week.